Hey everyone, hope you're doing great. Welcome back to my channel. In today's video, we'll dive into what if Principal Nezu found Deku first. Smash that subscribe button, and be sure to peek at the description below. Let's begin. The tea was exquisite. It was a first flush Darjeeling, steeped at exactly 85 degrees Celsius for 3 minutes and 45 seconds, resulting in a golden liquor that smelled of muscatel grapes and Himalayan mist. It was perfect. The report sitting on the mahogany desk, however, was garbage. Principal Nezu of UA High School, the most prestigious hero academy in Japan, set his porcelain cup down with a delicate clink that echoed in the vast, circular office. His black, beady eyes scanned the document again, hoping that perhaps a second read-through would reveal hidden depths of intellect he had missed the first time. It did not. Collateral damage was unavoidable due to the villain's size. Nezu read aloud, his voice high-pitched but laced with a razor-sharp edge of disdain. He flicked his tail, the white fur bristling. Unavoidable. What a lazy word. What a dangerously complacent word. The report was from a recent incident in the Shibuya district involving Empty Lady and a villain with a gigantification quirk. The result had been a victory, yes, but at the cost of 2 office buildings, a severed power grid, and 3 million yen in road repairs. The hero's justification was simple. I had to get big to fight the big guy. Nezu sighed, a sound that started as a squeak and ended as a growl. He pushed the paper away. This was the problem with the current generation of heroism. It was performative. It was reactive. It was an endless cycle of overpowering the opposition with brighter lights and harder punches, leaving the taxpayers to sweep up the dust. All Might had created an era of peace, but he had inadvertently created an era of intellectual stagnation. Why think when you can smash? Am I the only one? Nezu muttered, climbing up onto his chair to reach his computer terminal. Is there no one left who treats heroism as a science rather than a wrestling match? He woke his computer. 3 large monitors hummed to life, bathing his white fur in a cool, artificial blue glow. He bypassed the official Hero Public Safety Commission channels. They were filled with bureaucratic drivel, and navigated toward the darker corners of the web. Nezu had many hobbies. Some involved high-stakes chess against grandmasters who didn't know they were playing a rodent. Others involved manipulating the stock market to ensure UA's funding remained infinite. But his guilty pleasure was the forums, not the fan clubs. Not the All Might versus Endeavor shouting matches. Nezu frequented the deep dive analysis boards. These were the places where quirk theorists, vigilante watchers, and obsessive statisticians gathered to dissect hero fights frame by frame. Usually, it was conspiracy theories or amateurish fawning, but occasionally, one could find a diamond in the rough. He navigated to a thread titled, Incident Breakdown, Kamui Woods vs. the Swamp Thing, Nezu District. The thread was mostly praise for Kamui Woods' lacquered chain prison. But Nezu scrolled past the compliments, his eyes darting back and forth, processing hundreds of lines of text per second. Then he stopped. A user by the handle SmallMight42 had posted a reply 3 hours ago. It was a wall of text, formatted with bullet points and timestamps linked to a shaky bystander video. Nezu leaned in, his whiskers twitching. While the lacquered chain prison was the finishing move, the post read, it was actually an inefficient use of stamina. If you look at timestamp 042, the villain's sludge body showed a viscosity change when exposed to the ambient heat of the nearby burning vending machine. He's vulnerable to thermal fluctuation, not just physical binding. Kamui Woods rushed in. If he had utilized the environment, specifically the shattered fire hydrant at 015, he could have hardened the sludge with cold water pressure, or directed the fire to dry him out. The binding move risked structural damage to the train overpass above because the villain expanded to resist the pressure. A chemical takedown would have reduced collateral risk by 85%. Nezu paused. He pulled up the official police report on a separate screen. The police report mentioned minor structural cracks in the overpass. The heroes hadn't noticed. The police barely noted it. This user, SmallMight42, had noticed it from a grainy cell phone video. Nezu scrolled down. The user continued. Furthermore, Kamui Woods has a bad habit of anchoring his vines to civilian infrastructure without testing load-bearing capacity. At 110, he anchors to a rusted lamp post. If the villain had pulled back with more than 400 kilograms of force, that post would have snapped, sending shrapnel into the crowd gathered at the evacuation line. The hero needs to practice situational awareness regarding material integrity, not just villain suppression. Material integrity, Nezu whispered, a slow smile spreading across his face. It wasn't a nice smile. It was the smile of a predator who had just caught a scent. Situational awareness. Risk percentages. He clicked on the user's profile. User, SmallMite42. Join date, 4 years ago. Post count, 3,412. Reputation, low, mostly ignored. Nezu began to browse the post history. It was a goldmine. Thousands of entries. Detailed diagrams of All Might's movement vectors. Chemical breakdowns of Midnight's somnambulist Quirk. A terrifyingly accurate prediction of Endeavor's overheating limits based on the color of his flames during summer versus winter. Most of the other users mocked him. You're overthinking it, Fanbel. Heroes just need to hit hard. Who cares about load-bearing lamp posts? Gross, stop stalking their quirks. Nezu's paws danced over his keyboard. Who are you? He murmured. A retired pro? A suppressed intelligence quirk? A vigilante strategist? He initiated a trace. It was illegal, strictly speaking, for a civilian. For the principal of UA with a high-spec IQ, it was a triviality. He bypassed the proxy servers, sliced through the VPN, and triangulated the IP address within 30 seconds. The signal didn't lead to a hero agency. It didn't lead to a government facility or a university research lab. It pinged a residential apartment complex in Muzudafu. The Midoriya household. Nezu pulled up the public registry. Inko Midoriya. Quirk, attraction of small objects. Hisashi Midoriya. Quirk, fire breathing, overseas. Izuku Midoriya. Age 14. Quirk, none. Nezu froze. He reread the file. Quirk, none. He looked back at the screen, at the breakdown of Kamui Wood's tactical failures. He looked at a thread from 2 months ago where this user correctly identified a structural weakness in a villain's armor that the support companies hadn't patched for 3 years. Quirkless, Nezu said, the word tasting strange on his tongue. In this society, the quirkless were viewed as fragile. Obsolete. Glass dolls in a world of steel. And yet, this boy was seeing things that pro-heroes with decades of experience were missing. He was seeing the equations of the world. Nezu looked at the clock. It was 3:45 p.m. School would be out. The boy would be heading home. The principal of UA stood up on his chair. He straightened his tie. He adjusted his vest. Cancel my 4 p.m. meeting with the Board of Education, Nezu said to the empty room, knowing his automated assistant would log the command. I have a potential student to recruit. Or perhaps, a potential peer. The koi pond water smelled of algae and burnt paper. Izuku Midoriya stood by the edge of the school courtyard, staring down at his favorite notebook. The cover was charred, the edges smoking slightly. Hero Analysis for the Future, Volume 13. It bobbed in the murky water, acting as a buffet table for 3 hungry fish. Idiot, Izuku whispered to himself. He wasn't sure if he was talking to the fish or himself. Probably himself. Definitely himself. He fished the notebook out with a trembling hand, water dripping onto his black school uniform. The ink was running, but the pages were still legible. Empty lady. Kamui Woods. Backdraft. All his notes. All his work. If you want to be a hero that badly, there's a quick way to do it. Katsuki Bakugo's voice echoed in his head, loud and explosive, drowning out the ambient noise of the city. Take a swan dive off the roof and pray for a quirk in your next life. Izuku clutched the wet notebook to his chest. The dampness seeped through his shirt, cold and uncomfortable, but it was a grounding sensation. It reminded him he was here. He was alive. Even if, apparently, nobody wanted him to be. He began the walk home. He didn't take his usual route. Usually, he walked through the shopping district, hoping to catch a villain fight or see a hero on patrol. Today, he couldn't stomach it. The thought of seeing a hero, seeing that shining, impossible standard of power, made his stomach churn with a mix of longing and nausea. He took the back roads. The shadows were longer here. The alleyways between the residential blocks were quiet, filled only with the hum of air conditioning units and the distant sound of traffic. He walked with his head down, counting the cracks in the pavement. 1, 2, 3. Why do I even bother? He muttered. It was a habit, the muttering. A way to fill the silence that seemed to surround him. Kaken is right. It's simple biology. You can't be a hero without power. You can't save people if you can't even save your own notebook. 4, 5, 6. But the data on Kamui Woods. I was right. I know I was right. The binding was inefficient. If he keeps doing that, he's going to hurt someone. Someone needs to tell him. But who listens to a Deku? He turned a corner into a small, secluded park. It was little more than a patch of grass, a swing set with a rusted chain, and a vending machine that hummed aggressively. Izuku sat on the swing, the chains groaning under his weight. He opened the wet notebook. The page on Empty Lady was ruined, smeared into a gray blur. He felt the tears prickling at the corners of his eyes. He hated how easily he cried. It was just another weakness. Another defect. Analysis, he scolded himself, wiping his eyes with his sleeve. Don't cry. Analyze. Why does this hurt? Because your expectations of reality were misaligned with the actual variables. You expected fairness. Variable fairness does not exist in a biological hierarchy based on power. A sound deduction, a voice said. Though a bit cynical for one so young, Izuku shrieked. It was a high, undignified sound. He scrambled backward, falling off the swing and landing hard in the dirt. He looked up. Sitting on top of the vending machine, legs crossed politely, was something. It was small. Maybe 2 feet tall. It had white fur, large round ears, a dog-like snout, and paws that looked disturbingly like human hands. It was wearing a pristine suit, a tie, and shiny dress shoes. It was holding a juice box. GGG. Izuku stammered, his brain short-circuiting. Bear? Mouse? Dog? A common query, the creature said. Its voice was pleasant, polite, and terrifyingly articulate. It hopped down from the machine, landing silently despite the dress shoes. I am the principal of UA High School. My name is Nezu. Izuku stopped breathing. He knew who Nezu was. Of course he did. Izuku knew every hero in the top charts, but he also knew the administration. Nezu. The high-spec hero. The creature with a quirk that granted him intelligence surpassing humans. The only animal in history to manifest a quirk. Principal. Nezu? Izuku squeaked. Correct. Nezu clasped his paws behind his back and walked forward. He didn't walk like an animal. He walked like a headmaster patrolling his halls. And you are Izuku Midoriya. User handle, SmallMike42. The blood drained from Izuku's face so fast he felt dizzy. You how? The internet is not as private as you think, Mr. Midoriya, Nezu said, his black eyes boring into Izuku. Especially when you post analysis of that caliber. Izuku scrambled to his feet, clutching his notebook like a shield. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to criticize the pros. I like to take notes. I'll delete the account. Please don't arrest me for unauthorized quirk analysis or stalking or arrest you? Nezu tilted his head. Why would I arrest the only person in the Kanto region who noticed that Kamui Woods was endangering civilians with his anchor points? Izuku paused. The panic receded, replaced by confusion. You read the post? I read all of them, Nezu lied. He had read the last 2 years' worth in the cab ride over. I found them fascinating. Dry, perhaps. A bit repetitive in the fanboying sections. But the logic? The logic was sound. Nezu gestured to the park bench. Please. Sit. I have tea. Well, it is canned tea from a machine, which is an affront to tea culture, but it will suffice. Izuku sat. He felt like he was in a dream. Or a hallucination brought on by heat stroke. The principal of UA was handing him a warm can of green tea. Why are you here? Izuku asked, his voice trembling. Did you really come just to tell me you read my posts? I came because I am bored, Mr. Midoriya, Nezu said, hopping up onto the bench beside him. I am bored of muscles. I am bored of fire and ice and explosions. I am bored of heroes who think with their fists and solve problems by hitting them until they stop moving. Nezu took a sip from his juice box. I saw your analysis of the Sludge Villain incident from 2 months ago, Nezu continued. The one where you pointed out that Death Arm's punch actually increased the air pressure in the alleyway, risking the windows of the residential units above. He didn't account for the displacement, Izuku muttered, slipping automatically into analysis mode. He's a melee type. He thinks in vectors of impact, not environmental fallout. If he had used a grapple hold instead, he could have. Izuku clamped a hand over his mouth. Sorry. I'm muttering. Don't apologize, Nezu commanded sharply. Never apologize for thinking. That is what the rest of the world wants you to do. They want you to be quiet and applaud the fireworks. Nezu turned to face him fully. The scarred eye of the creature twitched slightly. Tell me, Midoriya. Why do you write these analyses? What is the goal? Izuku looked down at the can in his hands. I want to be a hero. A hero, Nezu repeated. Like All Might? Yes. To save people with a smile. And what is your quirk? The silence stretched. The wind rustled the trees. A crow cawed in the distance. I don't have one, Izuku whispered. The shame burned his throat. I'm quirkless. He waited for the pity. He waited for the, oh, I'm sorry. Or the, be realistic. I know, Nezu said simply. Izuku looked up. You know? I told you, I checked your file. I knew you were quirkless before I came here. Nezu smiled, showing a row of sharp, white teeth. Does that matter? Does it matter? Izuku's voice rose, cracking with hysteria. Of course it matters. I can't do anything. I'm useless. I'm a Deku. Everyone says so. All Might says. Well, he would say that you can't be a hero without power. All Might is a hammer, Nezu said dismissively. When you are a hammer, everything looks like a nail. But the world is not made of nails, Midoriya. It is made of complex machinery, delicate wires, and volatile chemicals. Nezu hopped off the bench and began to pace back and forth in front of Izuku. Let us play a game. A thought experiment. Nezu pointed a paw at Izuku. Scenario. You are facing a villain with a telekinetic quirk. He can lift anything under 5 tons within a 50-meter radius. He is currently barricaded in a bank with 10 hostages. You have no quirk. You have a radio, a flashlight, and a standard police-issue flashbang. How do you neutralize him? Izuku blinked. The tears in his eyes dried up instantly as his brain latched onto the problem. Telekinesis, Izuku murmured. Weight limit 5 tons. Range 50 meters. Is it line-of-sight based? Assume yes, Nezu said. If it's line-of-sight, then visual disruption is key, Izuku said faster now. But a flashbang is risky with hostages. Panic could cause him to crush someone reflexively. Does he have to gesture to use the quirk? Yes. Hand movements. Then I need to restrict his hands or his vision, Izuku said. He stared at the ground, his eyes darting back and forth. I wouldn't enter the radius. I'd use the radio. I'd hack into the bank's PA system, assuming I have support or basic slicing tools, and create an auditory feedback loop. High frequency. Disorienting. While he's distracted covering his ears, I cut the power to the building. Go on, Nezu said, his tail twitching with interest. Darkness neutralizes the line-of-sight requirement, Izuku continued. But he might panic and lash out blindly. So, before cutting the power, I use the flashlight. I don't shine it at him. I shine it at the fire suppression sensors on the ceiling. Heat or focus light trips the sprinklers. Why sprinklers? Water creates a slip hazard, reducing his physical stability. If he slips, he can't gesture accurately. But more importantly, the water mist refracts light. If I throw the flashbang after the sprinklers are on, the water droplets will amplify the flash, turning the entire room into a blinding whiteout without the concussive force needing to be right next to the hostages. He's blinded. He's deafened by the alarm. He's wet and disoriented. And then I walk in, Izuku said, his voice firm. And I hit him in the throat with the flashlight. You don't need a quirk to knock the wind out of someone who can't see you coming. Silence returned to the park. Izuku blinked, realizing what he had just said. He slumped back, his face turning red. I mean, hypothetically. That's just one possibility. Nezu was beaming. It was a terrifying sight. Brilliant, Nezu said. Absolutely brilliant. You turned a defensive tool, sprinklers, into an offensive amplifier. You used psychology, auditory distraction, to create an opening, and you prioritized hostage safety over villain defeat. Nezu climbed back onto the bench and looked Izuku in the eye. All Might would have smashed through the wall and punched him. And he probably would have succeeded. But the wall would be broken. The hostages would have hearing damage from the shockwave, and the villain would have shattered bones. Nezu leaned in close. Power is useful, Midoriya. But power without direction is chaos. You possess something far rarer than a strength enhancer or fire breath. You possess a tactical mind capable of processing high-speed variables under pressure. But Izuku looked at his hands. I can't fight. Even if I have a plan, if I get hit once, I die. I'm weak. Muscles can be built, Nezu snapped. Martial arts can be learned. Support items can be engineered. I know a teacher who fights with a scarf and dry eyes. I know a hero who fights with nothing but sound waves. The vessel can be forged, Midoriya. But the spark? The intelligence to see the win condition before the fight even starts? That cannot be taught. You either have it, or you don't. Nezu extended a paw. Izuku, Midoriya. I am offering you a position. Not just as a student of UA High School's hero course, though we will get you there, but as my personal student. Izuku stared at the paw. Your student? I want to teach you how to play the game, Nezu said softly. I want to teach you how to dismantle villains not with punches, but with precision. I want to prove to this society that a quirkless boy with a brain is more dangerous than 1,000 heroes with brute strength. Nezu's eyes narrowed. They call you useless. They call you Deku. I want to help you make them eat those words. I want to help you become the symbol of logic. Izuku looked at the small, white paw. He thought of Bakugo's explosions. He thought of the doctor who told him to give up when he was 4. He thought of his mother, apologizing to him with tears in her eyes. He looked at Nezu. He didn't see a monster. He saw a lifeline. Slowly, shakily, Izuku reached out. His hand, scarred from notebook burns and calloused from nervous wringing, grasped the soft, white paw of the principal. Izuku swallowed the lump in his throat. I want to be a hero. I'll do anything. Nezu shook his hand firmly. Excellent. Then finish your tea, Mr. Midoriya. We have a lot of work to do, and by work, I mean I am going to ruin your sleep schedule and overhaul your entire understanding of physics. All right. Oh, and Midoriya? Yes, Principal Nezu? Nezu grinned, and for the first time, it looked genuinely friendly. Small Might 42 is a terrible username. We'll need to work on your branding. Later that evening, Inko Midoriya was worried. Izuku was late. She paced the small living room, wringing her hands. The news was playing in the background, another villain attack, another hero interview, but she wasn't listening. Izuku was usually home by 4 o'clock. It was 6:30. Had the boys at school been mean again? Had he gotten hurt? The door unlocked. I'm home. Inko rushed to the hallway. Izuku. I was so worried. Where have you? She stopped. Izuku was standing in the jinkan, taking off his shoes. He looked different. His uniform was dirty, stained with grass and mud. His eyes were red and puffy, like he had been crying, but he was smiling. It wasn't the fake, wobbly smile he usually gave her to make her feel better. It wasn't the fragile smile he wore while watching old All Might videos. It was a real smile. It was sharp, determined, and a little bit scary. I'm sorry I'm late, Mom, Izuku said, straightening up. I met someone. A teacher. A teacher? Inko blinked. From Aldera? No, Izuku said. He walked past her into the living room, grabbing a fresh notebook from the stack on the table. From UA, Inko gasped. UA? Izuku, sweetie, did you go to look at the gate again? You know that. He offered to train me, Izuku said, opening the notebook and clicking a pen. He said I have potential? He said I can be a hero. Inko froze. She remembered the doctor's office. She remembered hugging her crying son, apologizing over and over. I'm sorry, Izuku. I'm so sorry. She looked at her son now. He was writing furiously in the notebook, muttering about structural integrity and flash-bang refraction. He looked alive in a way he hadn't in years. Izuku, she whispered. He looked up. His eyes were shining. I'm going to do it, Mom. I'm going to UA. And I'm going to win. Inko didn't apologize this time. She walked over and hugged him, burying her face in his shoulder. Okay, she sobbed. Okay, Izuku. Do your best. The next day, UA High School, Nezu sat at his desk. The garbage report on Empty Lady was in the shredder. In front of him lay a new file. It was a blank folder, labeled Project Deku. He opened it and placed a single sheet of paper inside. It was a curriculum. 1. Advanced Physics and Geometry. 2. Psychology of Fear. 3. 3D Chess and Go. 4. Combat Strategy, Asymmetrical Warfare. 5. Physical Conditioning, Consultant, Power Loader for Support Gear. Nezu took a sip of his tea. The symbol of peace is setting, he mused to the empty room. The shadows are lengthening. The world doesn't need another sun that burns out. It needs a flashlight that never dies. He chuckled, a high, chittering sound. Checkmate, society. The UA High School bell chime was not a bell. It was a digital modulation of a classical harp sequence, designed to be soothing to the auditory cortex to reduce student stress levels by approximately 4.2% before dismissal. Izuku Midoriya stood at the towering gates of the barrier, clutching the strap of his yellow backpack so tightly his knuckles were white. He was not a student here. Not yet. He was wearing his black Gakuin from Aldera Junior High, a uniform that felt like a target painted on his back. He checked his phone. 3:58 p.m. Punctuality is the first step of optimization, a voice crackled from the intercom system built into the gate pillar. Izuku jumped, nearly dropping his phone. Enter Mr. Midoriya. I have disabled the intruder sensors for your biometric signature. Do not loiter. I have the kettle on. The massive steel barrier clicked and slid open just enough for a human to slip through. Izuku swallowed the lump in his throat, took a deep breath, and stepped onto the hallowed grounds. He didn't head for the hero course classrooms. He followed the map sent to his phone, navigating the labyrinthine corridors toward the administration tower. The halls were mostly empty, save for a few support robots cleaning the floors. The silence was heavy, oppressive. It felt less like a school and more like a fortress of solitude. He reached the massive double doors at the top of the tower. A placard read, Principal Nezu. Izuku knocked. Knock, knock, knock. The door is unlocked, came the high-pitched reply. And please wipe your feet. The rug is Persian. Izuku opened the door and stepped inside. The office was exactly as he remembered from the previous day, yet somehow more intimidating. The walls were lined with bookshelves that reached the ceiling, filled with text in Japanese, English, Mandarin, and Latin. Nezu was sitting at his desk. Or rather, he was standing on his desk, arranging a tea set that looked more expensive than Izuku's mother's car. Good afternoon, Nezu chirped. Put your bag down. Wash your hands in the basin to your left. Then sit. Izuku obeyed, moving with the jerky stiffness of a robot. He washed his hands, dried them, and sat in the leather chair opposite the desk. Do you know why we are drinking tea, Midoriya? Nezu asked, pouring steaming water from a silver kettle into a ceramic pot. Because it's polite? Izuku ventured. Incorrect. Politeness is a social construct. We are drinking tea because it is chemistry. Nezu placed a timer on the desk. Tea leaves contain tannins, caffeine, and theobromine. The temperature of the water determines the extraction rate. Too hot, and the tannins release too quickly, making the tea bitter. Too cool, and the flavor profile is flat. Time, temperature, and material volume. Nezu looked up, his black eyes glistening. Heroism is the same. It is not about how hard you pour the water. It is about understanding the variables to create the perfect result. If you rush in hot, you ruin the brew. If you wait too long, it goes cold. The timer beeped. Nezu poured 2 cups with surgical precision. He slid one toward Izuku. Drink. And tell me what I did wrong. Izuku stared at the cup. W wrong? But you're a genius. You don't make mistakes. I am a genius, Nezu agreed, taking a sip of his own cup. But I am testing your observation skills. I made a deliberate error in this brew. Find it. Izuku lifted the cup. He sniffed it. It smelled like Earl Grey. Bergamot oil. Black tea. He took a tentative sip. It was hot, slightly astringent, with a floral aftertaste. He closed his eyes, letting the liquid sit on his tongue. He thought back to his mother's kitchen. She loved tea. She always complained when the water was. The water, Izuku whispered. He opened his eyes. It tastes metallic? Nezu's whiskers twitched. Not the tea leaves, Izuku muttered, his voice speeding up. The leaves are high quality. But there's a slight mineral aftertaste. Hard water? No, Yue has a filtration system. The kettle. You use the silver kettle. Silver is reactive if the interior lining is worn, but that's unlikely for you. Wait. The temperature. Izuku looked at the steam rising from the cup. Earl Grey is usually brewed at 98 degrees Celsius. But this is cooler. Maybe 85? You brewed it at green tea temperatures. The bergamot didn't emulsify properly with the water, leaving the oil sitting on top, which creates a sharper, almost metallic sensation on the tip of the tongue because the oil hits the taste buds before the tea liquor does. Izuku looked up, terrified he had just insulted the principal. Nezu set his cup down. He clapped his paws together. Excellent! Nezu squealed. You identified the variable. Most people would just say it tastes funny or drink it out of politeness. You analyzed the chemical failure. Nezu hopped off the desk and walked over to a small side table where a chessboard was set up. But it wasn't a normal chessboard. It was 3 translucent boards stacked vertically on top of each other. The physical body is important, Midoriya. We will get to that. But for the next 6 months, your primary gym is this office. And your weights are logic puzzles. Nezu gestured to the board. 3-dimensional chess, Nezu said. Have you played? And no. Just normal chess. And I'm not very good. Good. Normal chess is 2-dimensional. It simulates a battlefield where everyone is on the same ground. Reality is not like that. In reality, you have aerial threats, underground tunnels, and verticality. Nezu moved a white pawn from the bottom board to the middle board. Your move. You are black. Izuku stared at the complex array of pieces. He moved a knight tentatively. So, Nezu said, moving a bishop instantly. Let us discuss the elephant in the room. Or rather, the skeleton in the closet. All Might. Izuku froze. What about him? You worship him, Nezu stated. It wasn't a question. Your room is likely a shrine. You have analyzed his fights. You model your moral compass after him. He's the symbol of peace, Izuku said defensively, moving a pawn to protect his knight. He saves everyone with a smile. He's perfect. He is inefficient, Nezu countered. He moved his rook, capturing Izuku's pawn. And because you are trying to emulate an inefficient model while lacking the hardware to run the software, you are suffering. Inefficient? Izuku frowned. He ends fights in seconds. Time is not the only metric of efficiency, Midoriya. Cost is. Collateral damage. Long-term sustainability. Nezu tapped the side of his head. I want you to look at the monitor. The large screen on the wall flickered to life. It showed a clip from 5 years ago. All Might versus the Toxic Chainsaw. Watch, Nezu commanded. On screen, All Might was laughing. He wound up a massive punch. Detroit smash. The air pressure blasted the villain into the pavement. The villain was knocked unconscious instantly. The crowd cheered. What do you see? Nezu asked. He won, Izuku said, eyes shining. He defeated the villain and saved the civilians. Look closer, Nezu snapped. He rewound the footage and paused it. He zoomed in on the background. The shockwave, Nezu pointed out. Look at the glass windows of the office building behind the villain. Shattered. Look at the asphalt. Crushed into the sewage line below. That punch cost the city 40 million yen in repairs. It also ruptured the eardrums of 3 bystanders who were too close. Nezu hit play. And look at All Might. The camera zoomed in on All Might's face as the smoke cleared. For a split second, before he flashed a smile, there was a grimace. A wince of pain. He took a hit to deliver that punch, Nezu said. He traded damage for damage. He relies on his invulnerability. He fights like a tank. But tanks run out of fuel. Tanks break down. Nezu turned back to the chessboard. He moved his queen to the top board, putting Izuku's king in check. You are not a tank, Midoriya. You are a scalpel. If you try to fight like a tank, you will be crushed. You cannot trade hits. You cannot rely on overwhelming force. Izuku looked at the board. His king was trapped. If he moved left, the bishop got him. If he moved right, the rook. I can't save the king, Izuku whispered. You can, Nezu said. But you have to make a sacrifice. He pointed to Izuku's queen. If you move your queen here, you block my check. I will capture your queen. But then my rook is exposed to your knight. You lose your most powerful piece, but you survive to win the game later. Izuku stared at the queen. But she's the strongest piece. I can't lose her. This is the hero complex, Midoriya. Nezu slammed his paw on the table, making the pieces rattle. You want to save everyone. You want to save every pawn, every knight, every piece. You think a perfect victory means zero loss. That is a fantasy. In the real world, sometimes you must sacrifice a limb to save the heart. Sometimes you must let the villain destroy a building to save the people inside. Sometimes you must lose the battle to win the war. Nezu's eyes were intense, burning into Izuku's soul. All Might refuses to sacrifice. He carries the world on his shoulders alone. And because of that, when he falls, and he will fall, Midoriya, gravity applies to symbols too, the world will have no one left. Izuku felt a chill run down his spine. The way Nezu spoke, it sounded like he knew something specific. Something terrible. I don't want to be a hero who sacrifices people, Izuku said quietly. I didn't say sacrifice people. I said sacrifice options, Nezu corrected. You must learn to detach your emotions from the equation. Panic is a variable. Fear is a variable. Ego is a variable. Eliminate them. Leave only the logic. Nezu pointed at the board. Make the move, Midoriya. Sacrifice the queen. Save the king. Izuku's hand trembled. He reached out. He grasped the black queen. It felt heavy. He moved it. Nezu immediately captured it with his white rook. Clack. Good, Nezu purred. Now, look at the board. Izuku looked. His queen was gone. But the board was open. Nezu's defense was overextended. Izuku's knight was positioned perfectly to fork Nezu's king and rook in 2 moves. I have an opening, Izuku realized. Precisely. By losing the symbol of power, you gained a tactical advantage. Nezu leaned back in his chair. For the next 6 months, we are going to break you down, Izuku Midoriya. We are going to strip away your fanboy worship. We are going to strip away your hesitation. We are going to turn that muttering habit of yours into a targeting computer. Nezu smiled. Now, reset the board. We play until you beat me. Beat you? You're a super genius. Then you have a long night ahead of you. I hope you told your mother you'd be late. Week 3, the Lab of Horrors. The smell of grease and ozone hung heavy in the air. The development studio was a chaotic mess of wires, robotic limbs, and half-finished explosions waiting to happen. Don't touch that. That explodes. Don't touch that either. That implodes. Power Loader, the pro hero and head of the support course, emerged from a pile of scrap metal. He was wearing his signature excavator helmet, his voice muffled. Is this the kid? Power Loader asked, looking Izuku up and down. Nezu was perched on Izuku's shoulder, looking entirely too comfortable. Indeed. Higuri, meet Izuku Midoriya. My personal project. He looks scrawny, Power Loader grunted. And he's twitchy. I don't like twitchy kids in my lab. They knock over the nitroglycerin. I'll be careful. Izuku squeaked. He is scrawny, Nezu agreed. That is why we are here. Midoriya, take off your shirt. Huh? Izuku blushed crimson. Right here? We need to map your biomechanics, Nezu said. Chop chop. Izuku awkwardly removed his school jacket and shirt. He was thin. Painfully thin. You could count his ribs. He had no muscle mass to speak of. Power Loader whistled. Kid, do you eat? I try. He has no quirk, Nezu announced. Power Loader paused. He lifted his visor, revealing tired eyes. He looked from Nezu to Izuku, then back to Nezu. You're serious? You're putting a quirkless kid in the hero course? Nezu, that's suicide. Even with your brain training. It is not suicide if he is engineered correctly, Nezu said. We are not building a tank, Higuri. We are building a spider. A spider? Izuku asked. Show him the designs, Nezu. Nezu pulled a tablet from somewhere and projected a hologram into the air. It was a 3D wireframe of a human body, Izuku's body. Standard hero training focuses on hypertrophy, Nezu explained. Big muscles. Heavy lifting. Bench pressing trucks. That is useless for you. If you bulk up too much, you lose speed. You lose agility, and you will never be strong enough to outpunch a mutant type anyway. The hologram shifted. The muscles highlighted in red weren't the biceps or pecs. They were the core, the forearms, the calves, and the back. Functionality over aesthetics, Nezu said. We are going to train you for torque. Leverage. Joint manipulation. We are going to build your body to be a system of pulleys and levers. Parkour, Power Loader muttered, looking at the data. Gymnastics. Judo. Aikido. Exactly, Nezu said. I want him to be able to climb a vertical wall in 4 seconds. I want him to be able to use a villain's own momentum to throw them, regardless of their weight class. I want him to be untouchable. Nezu turned to Izuku. Midoriya, your fighting style will not be smash. It will be flow. You will not block attacks, you will redirect them. You will not punch through walls, you will go around them. Or under them, or through the ventilation shaft. And the gear? Power Loader asked. If he's quirkless, he needs an equalizer. Not a gun, Nezu said quickly. Guns are crude and legally problematic for a student. I was thinking, a staff? Izuku whispered. Both adults looked at him. A staff? Nezu asked. Well, Izuku started, muttering mode engaging. A staff increases reach. It acts as a lever for prying or tripping. It can be used defensively to block, and if it's made of the right material, it can be non-lethal but effective against armor. Plus, it's a simple machine. It doesn't run out of batteries. Power Loader grinned. It was a scary grin. I like him. He likes simple machines. A bow staff, Nezu mused. Collapsible. High-tensile carbon fiber alloy. Weighted ends for kinetic impact. Can we put a taser in it? Power Loader asked. Maybe later, Nezu said. First, he needs to learn not to hit himself in the face with it. Nezu hopped down from Izuku's shoulder. Midoriya, put your shirt back on. Starting tomorrow, your physical conditioning begins. You will run until you vomit. Then you will do math problems. Then you will run some more. We need to condition your brain to function even when your body is in hypoxic shock. A hero who can't do calculus while sprinting is of no use to me. Izuku paled. Calculus? While sprinting? Oh, and Midoriya? Nezu added. I've signed you up for dance classes. D-dance, balance, rhythm, and spatial awareness, Nezu said. If you can't waltz, you can't dodge a tentacle. Month 2, the tea party from hell. The Midoriya apartment was small, cozy, and currently filled with an aura of sheer terror. Inko Midoriya sat on the sofa, her hands trembling so hard the teacup rattled against the saucer. Sitting across from her, on the recliner, was the principal of UA High School. Mrs. Midoriya, Nezu said pleasantly, your macaroons are delightful. Store-bought, I assume? But a high-end brand. Why yes, Inko squeaked. Thank you. Mr. Principal. Sir. There? Nezu is fine. Izuku was sitting on a folding chair in the corner, looking like he wanted to phase through the floor. He had warned his mom that Nezu was coming for a home visit to discuss his progress, but he hadn't prepared her for the sheer presence of the creature. I assume you are here to tell me that Izuku is expelled? Inko asked, tears already welling up. I knew it. It's too dangerous. He's quirkless. He's going to get hurt. I should never have signed the permission slip. Mom, no! Izuku started. Nezu raised a paw. Silence fell instantly. On the contrary, Mrs. Midoriya, Nezu said. I am here to tell you that your son is testing in the top 0.1 percentile of tactical intelligence for his age bracket. Inko blinked. He is? Indeed. He is beating me at Go. Occasionally. When I am tired. Nezu took a bite of a macaroon. Mrs. Midoriya, I understand your fear. You look at Izuku, and you see a fragile boy. You see a victim. Inko looked down at her lap. He's all I have. His father is away. I just want him to be safe. Heroes get killed. Yes, they do, Nezu said, his voice dropping an octave, becoming serious. Heroes with strong quirks die every day. Because they rely on their power. They believe they are invincible. They run into fires because they think they don't burn. Nezu hopped off the chair and walked over to Inko. He placed a paw on her knee. It was a strange gesture, but surprisingly gentle. Izuku knows he burns, Nezu said softly. He knows he breaks. And because he knows that, he is careful. He is calculating. He does not take risks. He takes calculated actions. Nezu gestured to Izuku. I am not training him to be a brawler, Mrs. Midoriya. I am training him to be a general. A mastermind. When he enters the field, he will have already won the fight in his head 10 minutes prior. I promise you this, I will not let him die. Because I am teaching him that his greatest weapon is not his fists. It is this. Nezu pointed to his own head. Inko looked at her son. Really looked at him. He was still skinny, but his posture was different. He wasn't slouching. His eyes were alert. He looked confident. Izuku, Inko said. Are you happy? Izuku stood up. Yes, Mom. For the first time. I feel like I make sense. I feel like I can actually do this. Inko took a deep breath. She wiped her eyes. Okay, she whispered. She looked at Nezu. Okay. But please. Make sure he eats. He forgets to eat when he studies. I will personally ensure his caloric intake is optimal, Nezu promised. Now, on to the second reason for my visit. The UA entrance exam is in 4 months. Is he ready? Inko asked. Nezu grinned. He is going to break the exam. Figuratively. And possibly literally. We are working on the legal loopholes now. Month 5, the simulation room. The room was dark, illuminated only by the holographic grid on the floor. Scenario 45B, Nezu's voice echoed over the speakers. Hostage situation. Warehouse. 3 villains. 1 emitter, fire, 2 mutants, strength. 20 hostages. Time limit 5 minutes. Support items, smoke grenades, grappling hook, bow staff. Begin. Izuku stood in the center of the grid. He wasn't wearing his school uniform. He was wearing a prototype gym suit made of breathable, tear-resistant fabric. He held a black carbon fiber staff in his hands. Thinking time. Fire user is the priority, Izuku muttered. Enclosed space. Fire eats oxygen. Smoke grenades will worsen visibility but also create panic. Panic is good if directed. He moved. He didn't run straight. He zigzagged, keeping low. Villain A strength charges. Izuku didn't dodge. He slid. He dropped to his knees, sliding between the holographic villain's legs. As he passed, he jammed the end of the staff upward into the groin area, simulated. The hologram flashed red, critical hit. Stunned. Izuku used his momentum to roll back to his feet. Villain B strength throws a crate. Trajectory calculated, Izuku hissed. He didn't duck. He jumped onto the crate as it flew past, using it as a stepping stone to launch himself higher. Villain C fire, prepares to blast. Now, Izuku threw a smoke grenade, not at the villain, but at the ventilation intake above the villain. The fan sucked the smoke in and blasted it directly into the villain's face. Villain C coughs. Vision obscured. Izuku dropped from the ceiling, grappling hook deploying. He swung, not to attack, but to grab a heavy chain hanging from the warehouse rig. He released the counterweight. The chain fell, wrapping around the blind fire villain. Checkmate, Izuku breathed. The lights came on. Time, 2 minutes, 14 seconds, Nezu announced, walking into the room. Villains neutralized. Hostages secured. 0 casualties. Izuku collapsed onto the floor, panting. Sweat dripped from his nose. Was that okay? It was adequate, Nezu said. Though you hesitated for 0.4 seconds when the crate was thrown. You were calculating if the crate contained hostages. In a real scenario, you would need to know that beforehand. I'll do better. You will, Nezu said. He walked over and handed Izuku a towel. Because the entrance exam is next week. And All Might will be watching. Izuku froze. All Might? Yes. He has joined the faculty. He will be teaching foundational hero studies. Izuku felt a mix of excitement and nausea. Does he know about me? He knows I have a personal student, Nezu said, his eyes twinkling with mischief. He thinks you are a rich kid I'm tutoring for donation money. He has no idea you are the quirkless boy from the sludge incident. Nezu cackled. Imagine his surprise when the useless boy outscores the rest of the applicants using nothing but physics and a metal stick. Izuku gripped his staff. He looked at his reflection in the dark glass of the observation window. He didn't see Deku anymore. He saw the analyst. I'm ready, Izuku said. Good, Nezu replied. Because the game is about to begin. And this time, we are playing with real pieces. The classroom at Aldera Junior High smelled of chalk dust, adolescent hormones, and the faint, acrid scent of nitroglycerin. It was the smell of the status quo. Izuku Midoriya sat at his desk, his posture straight, his hands folded neatly on top of a notebook. 6 months ago, he would have been hunched over, trying to make himself as small as possible, hoping to disappear into the wood grain of the desk. He would have flinched at every loud noise. He would have been Deku, the defenseless. He was still Deku. But the definition had changed in his mind. Deku. It wasn't useless anymore. In the cipher of his own thoughts, coded by late-night sessions with a hyper-intelligent rodent, Deku had become an acronym. Data. Evaluation. Kinetic. Understanding. Since you're all third years, it's time to think seriously about your future, the teacher announced, slapping a stack of papers against the podium. I would hand out these career aptitude forms, but... He paused for dramatic effect, grinning. Why bother? You all want to be heroes, don't you? The class erupted. Quirks flashed, fingers extended, eyes glowed, minor telekinesis rattled pencil cases. It was a display of chaotic, unrefined energy, inefficient, Izuku thought. 30 students. 24 distinct quirks. None of them are practicing trigger discipline. If a villain with a gas-based quirk were to enter now, the increased respiration rates from the cheering would accelerate the incapacitation of the entire room by 40%. Yes, you all have wonderful quirks, the teacher said. But no power usage in school. Get a hold of yourselves. Hey, teach! The voice cut through the noise like a jagged knife. Katsuki Bakugo leaned back in his chair, feet on the desk. Don't lump me in with these extras. They'll be lucky to end up as sidekicks to some D-lister. I'm going for the big leagues. The class jeered, but Bakugo ignored them. He was the sun of this solar system, and everyone else was just debris. Ah, Bakugo, the teacher said. You're aiming for UA High, correct? The room went silent. UA. The impossible fortress. The acceptance rate was fractional, and the teacher continued, glancing at his clipboard with a hint of cruel amusement. It seems Midoriya is also aiming for UA. The silence stretched for a heartbeat, elastic and tense. Then it snapped. Hiya? The laughter was a physical force. It slammed into Izuku, but this time, he didn't shrink. He observed. He noted the frequency of the laughter, the dismissive body language. Pack mentality. They attack the outlier to reinforce social cohesion. Midoriya? No way. You can't get into the hero course just by studying. They got rid of that rule. But there's no precedent. Bam! Bakugo's hand slammed onto Izuku's desk, smoke rising from his palm. His red eyes were wide, feral. Hey, Deku! Bakugo snarled. You're below the extras. You're quirkless. You think you can rub shoulders with me? With me? Izuku looked up. He didn't flinch. He looked at Bakugo's hand, palm sweating. Nitroglycerin accumulation. Based on the ambient temperature and his stress levels, The ignition point is approximately 3 seconds away if he doesn't vent. Blast radius potential, small, focused directional charge. The regulations for UA admission were updated 5 years ago to remove the Quirk requirement, Izuku said calmly. His voice was steady, lacking the tremble that used to define him. There is no rule against it, Kaken. It's merely a statistical improbability. And I have been working on the variables. Bakugo blinked. He had expected fear. He had expected stuttering. He got logic. Variables? Bakugo shouted, sparks flying. The only variable is that you're a pebble in my path. Forget the stats. You're gonna die in the exam. The bell rang. The tension broke, but the hostility remained. As the class shuffled out, Izuku packed his bag. He reached for his notebook, Hero Analysis for the Future, Volume 13, but Bakugo snatched it first. We're not done, Bakugo said. He held up the notebook. What is this? Hero Analysis? You really are a stalker fanboy. Give it back, Izuku said. He stood up. He wasn't as tall as Bakugo, but his legs, hidden under the trousers, were rock hard from months of squats and sprints. Bakugo clapped his hands around the notebook. Boom! Smoke filled the air. The notebook was charred, the cover ruined. Bakugo tossed it out the open window. It arced through the air and splashed into the koi pond below. Here's some advice, Bakugo said, leaning in close. The smell of burned sugar and ozone was overpowering. If you want to be a hero so badly, there's a quick way to do it. Take a swan dive off the roof and pray for a quirk in your next life. Bakugo's lackey snickered. They walked out, leaving Izuku standing in the golden afternoon light. Izuku stood there for a long moment. His fists were clenched at his sides. Emotional response, anger. Level high. Action, retaliation, outcome analysis. Physical confrontation with Bakugo in a confined space is tactically unsound. I have no support gear. His quirk gives him range and concussive dominance. I would lose. Furthermore, engaging in violence on school grounds would blemish my permanent record, lowering my acceptance probability at UA by 15%. Illogical, Izuku whispered. He walked to the window and looked down at the pond. Telling someone to commit suicide, Izuku muttered to himself, is a violation of the hero code regarding sanctity of life. It demonstrates a severe lack of psychological stability required for pro certification. Kaken has the firepower, but his software is buggy. He went downstairs to retrieve the notebook. The fish were nibbling at it. That's not food, Izuku told the fish gently, pulling the soggy book out. That's data. He squeezed the water out. The ink ran, but the notes were still legible. He didn't cry. He didn't feel like crying anymore. Nezu had taught him that tears were just wasted hydration unless they served a manipulative purpose. He began the walk home. The underpass was cool and dark. It was the most efficient route home, shaving 6 minutes off his commute compared to the main road. Efficiency was Nezu's gospel. Izuku walked with a rhythm. Step, breathe, scan. Step, breathe, scan. He heard the sound of fluid shifting behind him. Not water. Too viscous. Like mud sliding over concrete. Anomaly. Izuku spun around, dropping his bag. A medium-sized invisibility cloak. A gurgling voice hissed. A mass of dark green sludge rose from the sewer grate, forming a towering wall of liquid malice. Large, manic eyes floated in the muck. Villain. Liquid type. Mutation or transformation? No solid form visible. Physical attacks will be ineffective due to lack of surface tension. Don't worry, the sludge monster said, lunging forward. I'm just going to take over your body. It'll only hurt for about 45 seconds. Then it'll be all over. Izuku moved. He didn't think, he reacted based on the drills. Sidestep. Minimize profile. But the tunnel was narrow. The sludge expanded, filling the space. It wrapped around Izuku like a wet blanket, forcing its way into his nose and mouth. Suffocation, Izuku's mind screamed. Can't breathe. Can't inhale. He clawed at the sludge. His fingers passed right through. Fluid dynamics. Grabbing is useless. Need to disrupt the cohesion. His vision began to spot. Panic is death. Observation is survival. Weak point? The eyes. The mouth. Everything else is amorphous. Izuku tried to reach for the eyes, but his arms were pinned. The strength of the fluid was immense. It wasn't just liquid, it was muscle fiber suspended in slime. I'm going to die, the thought intruded. Before I can prove Nezu right. Fear not, kid, the voice boomed from the sewer grate, vibrating through the sludge and into Izuku's bones. I am here. A blast of wind pressure hit them like a freight train. The sludge was blown back, rippling violently. All Might, the symbol of peace, stood there, illuminated by the dim tunnel lights, striking a pose that defied the grim reality of the sewer. Texas. Smash! The punch didn't even touch the villain. The air pressure alone created a vortex. The sludge was atomized, splattering against the tunnel walls. Izuku was released, falling to his knees, gasping for air. He coughed, his throat burning. He looked up. All Might was gathering the scattered sludge into empty soda bottles with blinding speed. Are you alright, young man? All Might asked, his grin blindingly white. Apologies for getting you caught up in my justice ing. I was chasing this fellow through the sewer system. Izuku stared. The man he had worshipped his entire life. The man Nezu called inefficient. All Might, Izuku wheezed. Indeed. Now, I must be off to deliver this guy to the police. All Might turned to leave, his legs flexing for a jump. Wait. Izuku scrambled up. He needed to know. He had Nezu's validation, but the heart, the irrational, emotional heart, still craved the approval of the sun. I have a question. No time. Evil waits for no one. All Might jumped. Izuku didn't think. He grabbed All Might's leg. Hey! Let go! I love my fans, but this is excessive. If I let go now, I'll die from the fall. Izuku shouted, the wind whipping his face. Good point. They landed on a nearby rooftop. Izuku collapsed, his legs shaking. The adrenaline dump was hitting him hard. That was dangerous. All Might scolded. Knock on the door next time. I needed to ask, Izuku panted. He looked up. I'm quirkless. I have no power. Can I still be a hero like you? All Might stopped. He looked at the boy. And then, steam began to pour off him. Puff, the giant vanished. In his place stood a skeletal man with sunken eyes and sharp angles, coughing up blood. Izuku stared. His analyst brain engaged immediately. Mass displacement? No, that violates conservation of matter. Transformation type. But the skeletal structure implies atrophy. The blood, hemoptysis. Chronic injury? An imposter? Izuku shrieked. No, the skeletal man sighed, wiping his mouth. Just the truth. You know how guys flex at the pool? It's like that. All Might sat down, leaning against the railing. He lifted his shirt. Izuku gasped. But he didn't look away in horror. He stepped closer, his eyes narrowing. The respiratory system is decimated, Izuku muttered, his voice dropping into his rapid-fire analysis mode. The scarring suggests a massive blunt force trauma that radiated outward. Gastric resection. You're missing your entire stomach? And half a lung? That explains the time limit on your hero work. Your metabolic efficiency is ruined. You can't process enough calories to maintain the muscle form for long periods. All Might blinked. Yes. Exactly. You're very perceptive. 5 years ago, Izuku continued, pacing slightly. The fight with Toxic Chainsaw? No, the timeline doesn't match the injury severity. That was a cover-up. This was someone else. Someone strong enough to punch a hole through the symbol of peace. Kid, stop, All Might said, unnerved. Look. You see this? I smiled to hide the fear. I smiled to trick the world. But the job is risking your life. Without power? Without a quirk? All Might looked at Izuku with sad, sunken eyes. Pros are always risking their lives. Police work is dangerous too, and they don't use quirks. But to be a hero? To stand on the front lines against monsters like that sludge guy? All Might shook his head. I cannot, in good conscience, tell you yes. It's good to dream, young man. But you have to be realistic. The words landed like stones. Be realistic. All Might stood up and walked toward the door to the stairs. I'll take the villain to the police. Knock on the door to get down. He left. Izuku stood on the roof. The wind ruffled his hair. 6 months ago, this would have broken him. He would have cried. He would have accepted it. But now, realistic, Izuku repeated. He let out a short, sharp laugh. Being realistic means acknowledging facts. Fact, you are missing organs. Fact, you are dying. Fact, you just left the sludge villain and loose soda bottles in your pocket while you jumped through the air. Izuku's eyes widened. Wait. The jump. The impact. The vibrations. Soda bottles. Loose caps. Boom. An explosion rocked the city blocks away. A plume of black smoke rose into the air. Izuku ran to the railing. The trajectory. Izuku calculated instantly. Shopping district. Tatooine station. If the villain escaped, it's my fault. I distracted him. He didn't hesitate. He didn't wait for permission. He ran for the stairs. He didn't run to watch. He ran to fix the equation. The scene was hell. The sludge villain had taken a new host. Explosions rocked the street, shattering windows and setting storefronts ablaze. The heat was intense, a physical wall that pushed the crowd back. Izuku pushed forward, weaving through the spectators. He reached the police tape. Observation mode, engage. He scanned the battlefield. Villain, the sludge monster. Larger than before. He was feeding on the explosions. Host, he couldn't see the host, but the explosions were coming from the sludge. Heroes, death arms, strength type, holding back the crowd. Useless against fluids. Kamui Woods, wood type, keeping distance. Why? Fire. His wood is vulnerable. Empty lady, gigantification, can't enter the narrow street without crushing civilians. Why aren't they moving? Izuku hissed. He's suffocating. We can't get close. Death Arms yelled to a policeman. The villain is too slippery, and the explosions are too dangerous. We have to wait for a specialist. Wait. Izuku gripped the yellow tape. Panic is death. Waiting is death. He looked at the fires. He looked at the sludge. He looked at the terrified eyes of the heroes who were paralyzed by the mismatch of their quirks against the situation. Then, the smoke cleared for a second. Izuku saw the host. Blonde hair. Red eyes filled with terror. Kaken. The logic in Izuku's brain stuttered. Bakugo is the victim. Bakugo, who told him to die. Bakugo, the bully. Does the variable of bully negate the variable of human life? Calculation, no. Izuku's legs moved. But this time, it wasn't a mindless sprint. It was a launch. Hey! You kid! Get back! Death Arms shouted. Izuku ignored him. He ducked under the tape. He was sprinting, his breath controlled, his eyes locked on the target. Analyze the threat. Fluid body. Eyes are solid. Mouth is solid. The explosions are coming from the palms of the host. The villain saw him. You again? I'll kill you this time. The sludge lashed out. A whip of dark green muck aimed at Izuku's head. Vector incoming. Speed high. Izuku didn't stop. He slid. He dropped to his knees, the asphalt tearing at his trousers, and slid under the sludge whip. He was in range. He ripped his yellow backpack off his shoulders. It was heavy, filled with textbooks and Nezu's dense tactical manuals. Projectile weapon. He didn't swing it wildly. He spun, using the centrifugal force of his slide to amplify the throw. Target. Ocular weakness. Izuku hurled the bag. It flew true, a yellow missile cutting through the smoke. Thwack. The corner of a hardcover math textbook slammed directly into the villain's right eye. Arg. The villain recoiled, the fluid consistency shuddering as he lost focus. The grip on Bakugo's mouth loosened. Bakugo gasped, coughing up slime. Deku? Bakugo wheezed. What the hell are you? Shut up and breathe. Izuku screamed. He was close now. He grabbed a piece of rebar debris from the shattered road. The villain recovered. You little pest! He raised a massive sludge fist to crush Izuku. Izuku knew he couldn't block it. He would die if that hit him, but he wasn't alone. He was a general. Kamui Woods! Izuku screamed, his voice cracking with authority. Don't bind him. Bind the signpost above him. Drop it! Kamui Woods, startled by the specific command from a middle schooler, reacted on instinct. His arm extended, wrapping around the heavy metal sign of a burning shop. He pulled. The sign snapped and fell, crashing between Izuku and the villain, acting as a momentary shield against the sludge fist. Clang! Death arms! Izuku pivoted, pointing to a fire hydrant that had been sheared off but was crimped shut. Punch the hydrant. We need water pressure to dilute his viscosity. Death arms blinked. What? Do it! Izuku roared, channeling every ounce of Nezu's terrifying presence. Death arms moved. He slammed his fist into the hydrant. A geyser of water erupted, spraying into the air. Kaken! Izuku looked at Bakugo. The water will disrupt his hold. When the spray hits him, explode outwards. Don't attack him, propel yourself backwards. Don't tell me what to do! Bakugo screamed, but he listened. The water hit the sludge. The slime became runny, losing its grip. Bakugo let off a massive explosion, propelling himself out of the main mass. Izuku grabbed Bakugo's collar and pulled him back, but the villain wasn't done. He was furious. He reformed, larger than ever, looming over the two boys. I'll kill you both! Izuku stood in front of Bakugo. He held the piece of rebar like a bow staff. He was shaking. He was terrified. Calculation. Survival probability 2%. Options exhausted. Reinforcements required. He looked the villain in the eye. He didn't run. Come and try, Izuku bluffed, his voice trembling but loud. The villain struck, but the blow never landed. A hand caught the sludge. A hand that wasn't shaking. I really am pathetic, a deep voice rumbled. Izuku looked up. All Might stood there. He wasn't smiling. He was frowning. He was bleeding from his mouth, steam rising from his body, but he was in his muscle form. He had forced it. I told you the traits of a great hero, All Might said, gripping the sludge so hard it rippled. But I failed to live up to them myself. Thanks to you. I remembered. All Might. Detroit. All Might pulled back his fist. The wind pressure began to build before he even threw it. Smash! The world turned white. The punch changed the weather. The updraft created a localized storm. The sludge villain wasn't just defeated, he was scattered across the entire ward. The fire was blown out by the sheer displacement of air. Rain began to fall from the rapidly cooling clouds. Izuku shielded his face. When he opened his eyes, All Might was standing tall, steam pouring off him, his fist raised in victory. The crowd went wild. The aftermath. The police had cordoned off the area. Paramedics were checking Bakugo. Izuku was sitting on the curb of the sidewalk, a blanket wrapped around his shoulders. He was being lectured. You idiot! Kamui Wood scolded, pointing a finger at Izuku. You could have gotten yourself killed. That was reckless. You have no license, no quirk. Whatever you did, it was suicide, Death Arms added, crossing his massive arms. Leave the fighting to the pros. Izuku sat there, listening. He let them finish. He waited for the silence. Then, he looked up. Reckless? Izuku asked quietly. Yes, reckless. I analyzed the situation for 45 seconds, Izuku said, his voice gaining strength. He stood up, the blanket falling off. In those 45 seconds you three did nothing. You cited quirk incompatibility as an excuse for inaction while a student suffocated. The heroes stiffened. I identified the ocular weakness. I utilized available projectiles. I calculated the trajectory to avoid collateral damage, and I directed you, Izuku pointed at Kamui Woods, to use the environment because you were too afraid of fire to think creatively. Hey, watch your tone, kid! Death Arms growled. I didn't run in blindly, Izuku said, his eyes hard. I ran in with a plan. If I hadn't, he would be dead. He pointed at Bakugo, who was watching from the ambulance with a complex expression. You! Kamui Woods was speechless. The kid was right. And that made it worse. Enough, a police officer intervened. Go home, kid. We'll decide if we're pressing charges for interference later. Izuku grabbed his charred backpack and walked away. He didn't look back at the heroes. He didn't look back at Bakugo. He just wanted to go home and have tea. Sunset. The residential district. Izuku walked slowly. His adrenaline was crashing. His knees felt like jelly. I am here. All Might slid out from around a corner, striking a pose. He was in muscle form for a second, then poof, he reverted to the skeleton. All Might? Izuku blinked. You should be in the hospital. I escaped, All Might said, wiping blood from his chin. I had to find you. To scold me too? Izuku asked, looking down. Tell me I was reckless? Tell me to be realistic? No, All Might said softly. He walked closer. The dying sun cast long shadows across the street. Back there, on the scene, the pros were standing around. I was standing around. I was afraid of my time limit. I was making excuses. All Might looked at Izuku with intense blue eyes. But you. The quirkless Fanba. You were the only one who moved. Izuku felt his breath hitch. Top heroes have stories about their school days, All Might continued. Most of them have one thing in common. Their bodies moved before they could think. My body didn't move on its own, Izuku corrected, tears forming in his eyes. My mind moved it. I couldn't just watch. That is the essence of a hero, All Might said. You saved him. And you saved me. All Might took a deep breath. He prepared to say the words. The words that would change everything. The words of succession. Young Midoriya. I have been looking for a successor. Someone to inherit my power. I believe that you are war. Objection. A high-pitched voice cut through the emotional moment like a buzzsaw. All Might froze. Izuku froze. From the shadows of a nearby garden wall, a small figure emerged. He was holding a teacup. Where he got the teacup on the street was a mystery. Principal Nezu? Izuku gasped. Nezu? All Might choked. Sir? What are you doing here? Nezu walked between them. He stood protectively in front of Izuku, looking up at the towering, skeletal All Might. I am here to ensure you do not poach my student, Tashinori, Nezu said, his tail twitching aggressively. Your student? All Might looked at Izuku. You're teaching him? For 6 months, Nezu confirmed. I found him first. I saw the potential you ignored until 5 minutes ago. Nezu turned to look at All Might, his beady eyes narrowing. You told him to be realistic on the roof, didn't you? I saw the footage from the traffic cameras. All Might flinched. I was trying to protect him. You crushed him, Nezu spat. And now, because he performed a miracle of tactical improvisation, you want to hand him the keys to the castle? You want to give him one for all? Izuku's eyes widened. One for all? The name of his quirk, Nezu said dismissively. We will discuss the details later, Midoriya. Nezu turned back to All Might. He is not a vessel for your power, Yagi. He is a mind. A brilliant, terrifying mind. If you give him that stockpile of power now, he will stop thinking. He will rely on the smash. He will become another hammer, just like you. But sir, All Might argued, he has the heart. You saw him. He needs power to make that heart effective. He made it effective with a backpack and a math book. Nezu countered. Hands off, Yagi. He is already taken. He is entered in my personal mentorship program. He will be the next principal of UA, before he becomes the next symbol of peace. All Might looked at Izuku. Young Midoriya, is this true? Izuku looked at All Might. The man offered him the ultimate dream. Power. The ability to save everyone with a smile. Then he looked at Nezu. The creature who had given him tea when he was broken. The creature who taught him that his brain was a weapon. Izuku stepped to Nezu's side. Izuku's voice was steady. I am Principal Nezu's student, All Might. He believed in me when I had nothing. Not just when I proved myself. All Might looked stricken. He slumped slightly. I see, All Might whispered. I was too late. However, Nezu interjected, his tone suddenly cheerful. I am not unreasonable. Logic dictates that having the symbol of peace as a consultant would be beneficial for his physical conditioning. Nezu grinned. You may join our sessions, All Might. But I call the shots. He learns strategy my way. he learns to fight my way. You are there to help him build the body to carry the mind. Do we have an accord? All Might looked at the small animal and the determined boy. He smiled, a small, genuine smile. I suppose I have much to learn as well, All Might said. Very well, Principal. I accept, Nezu cackled. It was a sound that made the nearby stray cats scatter in fear. Excellent. Now, Midoriya, get in the car. I have a limo waiting around the corner. We need to review your performance. You hesitated for 0.8 seconds before throwing the bag. Unacceptable, Izuku smiled. It was a tired smile, but it was real. Yes, Sensei. The limousine that belonged to the principal of UA High School was less a vehicle and more a mobile command center wrapped in bulletproof glass and Italian leather. The interior smelled of bergamot and ozone, the scent of high-grade tea and high-end electronics. Izuku Midoriya sat on the plush bench seat, his back rigid. To his left sat Principal Nezu, who was currently pouring tea from a travel set that was magnetically locked to a fold-out table. To his right, squeezing his emaciated frame into the corner, was the skeletal form of Toshinori Yagi, All Might. The silence in the car was heavier than the gravity training room Izuku had read about on the hero forums. Sugar, All Might? Nezu asked, his voice cutting through the tension like a scalpel. No. Thank you, Principal, All Might replied, his voice raspy. He was clutching a handkerchief, occasionally dabbing at the blood that trickled from the corner of his mouth. Midoriya? 2 cubes, please, Sensei, Izuku answered automatically. Nezu dropped the cubes in with a satisfying plink-plink. He stirred the cup and slid it across the table to Izuku. Drink, Nezu commanded gently. Your cortisol levels are spiking. The glucose will help stabilize your tremors, and the warmth will dilate your blood vessels, lowering your blood pressure. Izuku took the cup. His hands were shaking, the china rattling against the saucer. He took a sip. It was perfect, of course. So, Nezu began, leaning back and crossing his short legs. He looked not at Izuku, but at the skeletal giant. Let us review the data points of the last hour. All Might flinched slightly. Sir, Data point 1, Nezu interrupted, raising a paw. A villain escaped custody due to negligence regarding secure containment protocols, specifically the use of consumer-grade polyethylene terephthalate bottles for a fluid-based villain capable of exerting pressure. All Might looked down at his knees. I was rushing. My time limit. Data point 2, Nezu continued, his eyes sharpening. A civilian minor, specifically Katsuki Bakugo, was taken hostage. The resulting collateral damage to the Tatooine shopping district is estimated at 45 million yen. Data point 3, Nezu said, his voice dropping to a dangerous, low chitter. Several pro-heroes stood by and watched a child suffocate because they lacked the imagination to utilize their quirks outside of their standard operational parameters. They waited for you. Nezu took a sip of his own tea. And finally, data point 4. You, the symbol of peace, found a successor. You chose a boy who had just risked his life to save another. A noble choice. All Might looked up, hope sparking in his sunken eyes. Yes. He moved when no one else did. He has the spirit of a true hero. And yet, Nezu said, slamming his cup down, you chose him after you told him to give up on the roof not 20 minutes prior. The silence returned, suffocating and cold. Izuku shrank into his seat. He felt like a bone being fought over by 2 dogs, or rather, a very large dog and a very smart mouse. I was trying to protect him, All Might whispered. This life, the burden I carry. I didn't want him to die, and that is the crux of the problem, Toshinori, Nezu said, his voice softening just a fraction. You equate heroism with martyrdom. You believe that to be a hero, one must be willing to break oneself against the rocks of society's evils. You looked at a quirkless boy and saw a victim. I looked at him and saw a solution. Nezu turned to Izuku. Midoriya. Open your notebook. The fresh one. Izuku scrambled to unzip his backpack. He pulled out a pristine notebook. Hero Analysis for the Future, Volume 14. We are going to UA, Nezu announced. Not the classrooms. The faculty lounge. We have a negotiation to conduct regarding the custody of your future. The faculty lounge at UA High was a sanctuary. It was located in the upper echelons of the main tower, boasting a panoramic view of the campus and the city beyond. The walls were lined with awards, commendations, and the personal memorabilia of the greatest heroes in Japan. Nezu sat at the head of the long conference table. All Might sat on his right. Izuku sat on his left. Let us be frank, Nezu started. All Might, you wish to give Midoriya your quirk. Izuku's pen hovered over the paper. He looked at All Might. My quirk, All Might said, his voice gaining a solemn gravity. He stood up, turning to face Izuku. Young Midoriya. You know my secret. You know about my injury. But you don't know the truth of my power. All Might spread his hands. The tabloids call it super strength, or invulnerability. But those are just the symptoms. The quirk itself is something else entirely. It is a torch, passed down from generation to generation, a sacred fire. Izuku's eyes widened. Passed down? Indeed. One person cultivates the power, and then passes it to another. It stockpiles strength, growing with each holder. I am the 8th holder. And I want you to be the 9th. The name of the ability, All Might said, is one for all. Izuku stared. His brain felt like it had been dunked in ice water. Passed down. Cultivated power. Stockpile. His hand began to move. The pen scratched furiously against the paper. One for all. Transferable quirk. Mechanism? DNA ingestion? Blood transfusion? Energy resonance? If it stockpiles power, does it stockpile physical strength or kinetic energy? If it's the 8th generation, the exponential growth curve would be massive. Linear progression wouldn't account for All Might's ability to change the weather. It must be compounding, Midoriya, Nezu said, cutting through the muttering. Izuku snapped his head up. Why yes. Analyze, Nezu commanded. Don't just listen to the myth. Analyze the mechanics. Izuku looked at All Might. Transferable means it's not a genetic mutation inherent to your body. It's an external energy source grafted onto your biology. Essentially, yes, All Might nodded. And it stockpiles power, Izuku continued. He looked at All Might's skeletal form, then remembered the muscle form. Wait. The muscle form. Is that the quirk? No, All Might admitted. The muscle form is just me flexing. Like sucking in your gut at the beach. The quirk is the energy inside. Izuku looked down at his notebook. He drew a stick figure. He drew a massive ball of energy next to it. If the power has been growing for 8 generations. Izuku muttered, his brow furrowing. And you, All Might, are the strongest hero in history. That means the stockpile is currently at a level that exceeds normal biological limits by a factor of thousands. Izuku stopped writing. He looked up, his face pale. If you gave that to me, Izuku said slowly, I would explode. All Might blinked. What? Explode, Nezu chirped happily. Like a water balloon filled with a fire hose. Or a circuit board plugged directly into a nuclear reactor. Well, All Might scratched the back of his head, looking sheepish. I mean, not explode. Maybe, pop a few limbs? That's why we need to train your body first. How long? Izuku asked. How long did you train before you took it? I had a quirkless body too, All Might said proudly. I trained for a bit, but honestly, it came naturally to me. I just clenched my butt cheeks and yelled smash. Izuku stared at him. Nezu facepalmed. And there it is, Nezu sighed. The fatal flaw and the symbol of peace. He is a genius of instinct. He cannot teach what he understands intuitively. Nezu stood up on the table, walking until he was eye level with All Might. Tashinori, listen to me. You are a biological anomaly. You were born with a body capable of handling 100% of that power almost immediately. Midoriya is not you. He is a modern human, evolved towards intellectual quirk factors, even if he lacks one. His bone density is average. His muscle fibers are type 2A, built for stamina and burst speed, not the type 2B hyperdense fibers you possess. Nezu turned to Izuku. If All Might gives you a hair to eat right now, Midoriya, and you try to use that power, based on my calculations, the recoil from a single 100% punch would shatter your humerus, radius, and ulna. The shockwave would likely detach your pectoral muscle from the sternum. And that's if you're lucky. If you tried to channel it through your legs to run, your femurs would snap like dry twigs. Izuku looked at his arms. They were thin, scrawny. So, Nezu said, we have a dilemma? All Might wants to give you the ultimate sword. But if you try to lift it, it will crush you. But I can wait. All Might interjected. We can train him. The entrance exam is in 10 months. We can build his body up. 10 months, Nezu scoffed. To build a vessel capable of holding the sun? Impossible. You would need 3 years of hypertrophy training just to handle 5% safely without breaking bones every time. Nezu turned to Izuku. His eyes were serious. Midoriya. This is the choice. The variable that defines your future. Nezu held up one finger. Option A. You accept All Might's offer. You spend the next 10 months frantically trying to build muscle. You ingest the hair on the morning of the exam. You go in. You use the power. You break your limbs. You pass, perhaps, but you spend your high school years in the recovery girl's office, learning nothing but pain management. You become a glass cannon. And eventually you burn out. Nezu held up a second finger. Option B. You refuse the power for now. You continue my training. We build your mind. We build your body for agility, for tools, for strategy. You pass the exam quirkless. You prove to the world that a hero doesn't need a magic trick to save a life. You become the first quirkless pro hero. The room was silent. All Might looked at Izuku, his expression pleading. He wanted this boy to be his heir. He saw the spirit. Nezu looked at Izuku, his expression challenging. He wanted this boy to be his peer. He saw the intellect. Izuku looked at his notebook. One for all. The dream. The ability to be like All Might. To smash through walls. To save everyone with a smile. But then he thought about the Sludge Villain. He hadn't smashed the villain. He had outsmarted him. He had used a backpack and a math book. He thought about the chess games with Nezu. The satisfaction of a trap springing shut. The feeling of control. If he took One for All now, he would just be a weaker version of All Might. He would be chasing a ghost. Izuku stood up. He closed the notebook. All Might, Izuku said. Yes, my boy, I am honored. More than I can say. You have been my idol since I was 4 years old. Izuku took a deep breath. But Principal Nezu is right. All Might slumped. Nezu's tail twitched in victory. Wait, Izuku said, looking at Nezu. I'm not refusing it forever. Nezu paused. Oh, I'm refusing it for now, Izuku clarified. He looked back at All Might. If I take this power now, I won't understand it. I'll just use it to hit things. I want to understand heroism first. I want to learn how to save people without power. Because if I can't save people when I'm weak, then I don't deserve to save them when I'm strong. Izuku's green eyes burned with a new intensity, not the fanaticism of a fanda, but the cold, hard resolve of a strategist. I want to pass the UA entrance exam quirkless, Izuku declared. I want to prove that Principal Nezu's logic is sound. I want to earn my spot in Class 1A with my own 2 hands and my own brain, not with a borrowed quirk. Izuku turned to Nezu. But if I succeed? If I can prove that I can be a hero without it, then I want to add One for All to my arsenal later. As a tool. Not as a crutch. Nezu stared at the boy. Then, slowly, a wide, terrifying grin spread across his face. A tool, Nezu cackled. He called the ultimate quirk a tool. Oh, this is marvelous. Do you hear that, Toshinori? He doesn't want to be the power. He wants to wield it. All Might looked stunned. He looked at the frail boy who had just rejected the greatest gift in the world because it wasn't logical yet. And then, All Might laughed. It was a booming, healthy laugh, even in his skeletal form. You really are something else, young Midoriya. You're right. I was looking for someone to carry the torch. You want to build a lighthouse. All Might stood up and offered his hand. I accept your terms. I will hold on to One for All for you. Until you are ready. Until your body, and your mind says it is time. Izuku shook the large, bony hand. Thank you, All Might. However, Nezu interjected, hopping onto the table between them. We have 10 months. And since we are not focusing on clench and smash training, we need a new curriculum. Nezu pulled out a tablet. Tashinori, you are hired. I am? As a physical education consultant, Nezu said. Midoriya needs muscle. But not bodybuilder muscle. He needs functional combat density. You will oversee his diet. You will oversee his cardio. You will be his gym teacher. I can do that. All Might puffed out his chest. I have the aim to pass. American Dream Plan. We will be rewriting that, Nezu said, deleting the file from All Might's phone with a quick hack. We are using the Nezu protocol, Rat in the Maze plan. Nezu turned to Izuku. Midoriya. You have rejected the easy path. The hard path begins tomorrow at 0500 hours. Yes, sir. We are going to clean Dagoba Beach, Nezu said. Oh. Like in my plan? All Might said. Yes, but with a twist, Nezu added. Midoriya will not just be moving trash. He will be cataloging it, disassembling it, and using the scrap parts to build his own support items for the exam. Izuku's eyes lit up. Build support items? If you are going into a war zone without a quirk, Nezu said, his eyes gleaming, you had better bring some very interesting toys. You have access to the development studio's scrap heap. Whatever you find on that beach, you can keep. If you can fix it, you can use it, Izuku grinned. It was the grin of a mad scientist in the making. I saw a broken microwave and a lawnmower engine on the beach yesterday, Izuku muttered. If I combine the magnetron with the directional cone. He's muttering again, All Might whispered to Nezu. Let him cook, Nezu whispered back. He is calculating how to conquer the world. Scene, the Dagoba Municipal Beach Park. 2 weeks later. The sun was barely rising over the horizon, painting the sky in hues of purple and orange. The beach was a landfill, a monument to illegal dumping. Mountains of tires, broken appliances, and rusted cars stretched as far as the eye could see. Izuku Midoriya was standing atop a pile of trash. He was shirtless, wearing only gym shorts and heavy work gloves. He wasn't ripped, not yet, but the definition was starting to show. The baby fat was melting away, replaced by lean, wiry cords of muscle. 30 seconds. Nezu shouted from his perch on a clean beach chair, holding a stopwatch. Young Midoriya! Lift with your legs. All Might shouted from the sand, where he was doing one-armed push-ups in his skeletal form, which looked defyingly impossible. Izuku gripped the axle of a rusted pickup truck. It was buried under a pile of wet tatami mats. Physics, Izuku thought. The truck is the load. The sand is an unstable fulcrum. If I pull directly, I strain the lumbar vertebrae. I need leverage. Izuku jammed a long steel pipe under the axle. He wedged a cinder block under the pipe. Archimedes said, give me a lever long enough and I can move the world, Izuku grunted. He jumped onto the end of the pipe. Crack. The truck axle popped free from the suction of the wet sand. Time. Nezu called. Excellent application of leverage. However, you wasted 3 seconds finding the fulcrum point. You must visualize the geometry faster. Izuku wiped sweat from his forehead. He grabbed his water bottle and took a swig. He pulled out a small notebook from his pocket. Waterproof, a gift from Nezu. Noted, Izuku panted, scribbling. Visual geometry drills. Tonight. All Might stood up and walked over. He looked at the truck axle. You know, All Might said, when I did this, I just dragged the truck. Inefficient, Izuku and Nezu said in unison. All Might sighed. I feel like I'm the one being bullied here. You are the muscle, Tashinori, Nezu said, pouring himself a cup of tea from a thermos. Be content with your gains. Midoriya is building something else. Izuku looked at the pile of scrap he had harvested today. A car battery. Several copper coils from an old AC unit. A pristine lens from a broken telescope. What are you building with that junk, young Midoriya? All Might asked. Izuku picked up the copper coils. He looked at the battery. The entrance exam involves robots, Izuku murmured. Robots have circuits. Circuits are vulnerable to high-frequency electromagnetic pulses. If I can build a portable EMP emitter using the car battery as a capacitor. All Might looked at Nezu. Is that legal? It's not explicitly forbidden in the rulebook, Nezu grinned. The rulebook says bring whatever support items you need. It does not specify that the items cannot be electromagnetic weapons of mass disruption. Besides, Izuku added, a dangerous glint in his eye. I need to deal with the 0-pointer somehow. The 0-pointer? All Might laughed nervously. You're supposed to run from that one. Running is a valid tactic, Izuku agreed. But disabling it creates a larger safety zone for other examinees. And if I sever the hydraulic lines, or scramble its IFF targeting system? Izuku went back to muttering. All Might watched him. He saw the boy's scarred hands, scarred not from fighting, but from soldering irons and jagged metal. He saw the bruises on his shoulders from carrying heavy loads. He saw the dark circles under his eyes from studying Nezu's impossible curriculum. He's going to be a great hero, All Might whispered to Nezu. He is going to be a terrifying hero, Nezu corrected. He is going to change the definition of the word. Nezu checked his watch. Break time is over. Midoriya. Calculus quiz. While lunging with the truck axle. Go. What is the integral of x squared multiplied by the cosine of x? Izuku shouted, lifting the heavy metal bar and stepping forward into a deep lunge. You tell me. Integration by parts. Izuku grunted, stepping forward again. U equals x squared, dv equals cosine x dx. All Might watched the boy lunging down the beach, shouting math at the seagulls. This is weird, All Might decided. This is progress, Nezu replied. 6 months later. The day before the exam. The beach was clean. It wasn't just clean, it was sparkling. The golden sand stretched out, pristine and beautiful. The sunrise reflected off the water, no longer blocked by mountains of garbage. Izuku stood in the center of the beach. He was unrecognizable from the boy he was 10 months ago. He wasn't bulky like All Might. He was compact. Like a gymnast or a martial artist. Every muscle was defined, tight, and coiled like a spring. His back was a map of functional muscle. His hands were rough, calloused, and stained with grease and ink. He was holding a long black staff. It was the result of months of tinkering. The Mk4 kinetic bow staff. Time. Nezu called out. Izuku spun the staff. He struck a pose. He wasn't smiling like All Might. He was focused. Intense. You have cleared the beach, All Might said, beaming with pride. You have surpassed my expectations, young Midoriya. You are ready. Physically, yes, Nezu said. But the exam is not just lifting weights. Nezu walked up to Izuku. Midoriya. Tomorrow, you enter the arena. You will be surrounded by students with flashy quirks. Explosions. Engines. Gravity control. Lasers. Nezu poked Izuku in the chest. They will look at you and see a quirkless boy with a stick. They will underestimate you. They will ignore you. Izuku looked down at his mentor. Let them, Izuku said. Precisely, Nezu grinned. Let them ignore the mouse until it steals the cheese. Izuku looked at the ocean. He touched his chest, where his heart beat steady and strong. He thought about One for All, the power waiting for him in the future. Not yet, he told himself. First I win my way. I'm going to hack the exam, Izuku said. I expect nothing less, Nezu replied. Now go home and sleep. If your REM cycle is disrupted, your reaction times will suffer by 12%. Yes, sensei. Izuku bowed to Nezu. He bowed to All Might. Then he turned and ran. He didn't jog. He sprinted. He moved with a fluidity that was almost unnatural, vaulting over the railing of the seawall and disappearing into the city. All Might watched him go. He didn't ask for the hair, All Might noted. No, Nezu said. He wants to earn the right to eat it. Nezu turned back to the car. Come, Tashinori. We have to prepare the scoring algorithms. I need to add a new column for tactical brilliance.